Season 2, Episode 8 is titled Better Call Saul, and I think I know why it's called that. Come here, I have a theory. Okay, so I know this doesn't make sense, but you know how Vince always does the whole thing of using like old movie references as episode titles, right? So this obviously doesn't work here because Better Call Saul, but the thing is, and hear me out, there is a TV show called Better Call Saul, right? And I swear to God, Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, I think it's the same universe. I know it doesn't make sense, but hear me out. In this episode, we have Saul, right? This wacky lawyer dude. And the thing is, in Better Call Saul, there's a character named Jimmy. I swear to God, it's the same dude. I swear to God, it's the same dude. Oh yeah, one more thing I almost forgot. It's also obviously foreshadowing the series finale because Walter should have called Saul, right? Like, why did he get caught by the DEA? What is he, stupid? The episode opens with Badger chilling on one of said very suspicious Better Call Saul benches, with Citizen Z then approaching him, supposedly wanting to buy some product.
How about over there? That brown van? Duke City Flowers? Come on!
And Badger is obviously correct in clocking that Citizen Z here is in fact doing a sting operation, but he is also frighteningly accurate about the vans, because those are literally the vans that would arrest him. And he even clocks the flower van, which would later be used to arrest the fake Heisenberg. So yeah, I guess the lesson here is trust your gut, or something like that. Also, Badger's attempts at sounding super informed and just fully believing the whole,
if you ask a cop if he's a cop, he's like obligated to tell you. It's in the Constitution. No, I am not a police officer.
Is just hilarious. Ah yes, the critical weakness of a sting operation, just asking, but are you for real though? There are a few slightly more legally dubious activities that Hank does. Think like them coercing the emotionally vulnerable Jesse or trying to get into the RV without a warrant. But this one is just not that. This is like a textbook sting. And we also get a nice bit of continuity with even the cops being shook by Walter's pricing.
We're not charging enough. Corner the market, then raise the price.
175 for a team.
Whoa.
Also, bonus fact, while this is not one of them, the Saul number was, and maybe still is, I don't know, I'm not in the US, I'm not testing this, one of the numbers that you could actually call and get a little Easter egg message. There have been quite a few variations of the phone number throughout the years, so no clue which one it is, but it was supposedly a thing. Oh yeah, and there's also a misprint of this number on Saul's literal door, like the thing where you enter his office. The number pretty much everywhere else is 164, but his door says 165, which I guess is just a minor oopsie. And the very last goofy fact is that this scene was actually referenced in Part 9 of JoJo. If this were any other series, I'd say it's a big stretch, but considering the rest of JoJo and how close the lines are here, I do think Araki really was being slightly cheeky here. But yes, as Badger gets arrested, we roll intro. Moving into the episode itself, we open with what is perhaps the greatest ad that is ever added. And yes, the janky green screen will never not be funny, especially when it could literally just be cropped out, but it's not, because goofs and gaffs. Also, in case you couldn't be bothered to read the fast-scrolling text, here it is all in one. Big missed opportunity for not putting in some kind of extra subpoint about how the testimonials are not actually real or something like that. That would make it quintessentially Saul. Like, there is this thing about these are not actually real people, and then it's like even the situations are also not real. Aside from that though, we pick back up with Jesse and Jane, where we already start getting hints of Jane's past that is nowhere near as clean and tidy as we've seen thus far.
He has a nose like a damn bloodhound.
Is he, ever caught you?
Many times.
Maybe we should light up.
Unfortunately, Jessie really misses the context clues and makes her uncomfortable, which is when she tosses him the 18-month rehab chip. Not sure whether this duality is intentional, but this is not the first milestone chip of sorts that we've seen in the series, with us seeing Walter's treatment chip a few episodes prior. And, of course, because that is Walter, that pin with big bold letters saying Hope was just thrown into the trash. So I wonder if this pin was already meant to be an omen of kind of the same thing, of hope that will be thrown away and consumed by the darkness that they carry. 18 months in rehab is a very big achievement. And considering we're coming right off of the Peekaboo episode where we saw the lifelong consequences this business can have, this entire scene, and especially Jane's initial recoil, is just rough to watch. In hindsight, we of course know that despite Jesse's encouragement and attempts at stopping completely himself, this is where that spiral begins. And again, that is just rough. After a very brief scene of Walter already showing a little bit of saltiness about Skylar going into work, he gets a call from Marie, who is clearly rattled. She explains that Hank just showed up, then briefly recapping the Tortuga incident. And as Walt enters the room, he immediately calls to Marie, clearly both distraught and barely even conscious. But the moment Walter speaks, he yo-yos right back into the goofy, always aloof Hank.
Hey buddy, what's up?
We've already seen him experiencing a full-blown panic attack, and how he also immediately pulled back from that. But with this, that transition from groaning to instantly attempting to play normal is so stark that it's somehow almost disturbing. Just how much is he hiding if he is capable of this kind of masking? He tries playing this off as just some flu, which Walter clearly immediately sees through. But he then does give up at least an inch, saying Walter probably heard what happened, saying,
Freaking animals.
like we talked about last time with the Heisenberg song, that doesn't really bode well for Walter, as said animals are literally going after him at this very moment. And if we jump ahead just a wee bit, might track down Walter in 3 hours. So yeah, very bad. It's also interesting what Hank says about being sent home. He says that he was sent back because he was getting an evidence bag when the bomb went off, and escaped without a scratch, which was apparently weird for the special agent in charge. In reality, we of course know that he got a panic attack and retreated to the car, less so for evidence bags and more so just to catch a breath. What's interesting though is that we never really learned the full truth of how he was sent back. By season 3, he'd be cleared and would kind of agree to go back to El Paso, but as soon as Heisenberg's meth was back, he just ignored all orders and started sleuthing around himself. And so that then makes me wonder how much of this was really him being sent back, and how much of it was him wanting to go back. I'd wager to guess that it's pretty standard protocol to give someone a few days off after something like the Tortuga incident because, well, you know, he was kind of insane. And so, I'm also kind of suspicious about the whole noting of evidence bags in the first place. As in, could Hank be bringing them up because he actually wants to bring it up and talk about it? As in, this is survivor's guilt, and the special agent in charge never sent him back because he suspected that Hank is having a panic attack or something. Who knows? Point is, Hank is very clearly rattled even more than he was with Tuco, so yeah, that's not great. And what's also not great is Hank explicitly saying that he can't see a therapist because it would put his entire career on the line. Considering his current situation, this is very much a rock and a hard place deal. Clearly, his PTSD is too much to handle, but the stigma around therapy, especially in the much higher stakes El Paso environment, is also blatantly clear. And so, he is very much a struggler, kind of stuck right in between. He can't really get help, but he's also clearly not very fit to go back to El Paso. Walter does offer to at least talk about it, but Hank says that they don't exactly have
what you might call an experiential overlap.
What if I told you we do?
Okay, first off, Walter dropped this line so ominously that Hank's reaction here is just hilarious. Dude is actually doing the I can't prove it meme, and it is so good. But he then goes on one of his mildly morbid speeches, saying he spent his entire life afraid, scared of things that might or might not happen. But then saying that, ever since his diagnosis, he has slept just fine. Firstly, this is one of many pseudo-confessions between Walter and Hank. Multiple times throughout the series, we will see Walter needlessly do self-destructive things just to almost wish that someone catches on to him. I don't know if that's pride or hubris or just taunting your opponent or whatever, but he does this repeatedly. But secondly, when he talks about his diagnosis, it's also interesting because it is this concrete and terminal threat, one that has suppressed the endless vague what-ifs. In a roundabout way, as morbid as it sounds, he now knows what the end is, so he's not trying to avoid death. He is trying to control his life and the legacy before death arrives. Paradoxically, this is the first time that he has truly lived. Which nicely leads us on to numero 3. Because Walter has resolved his own existential dread, he views Hank's fear and trauma as a correctable problem. Walter views Hank's problems as just a lack of acceptance or action. He views him as a almost inferior version of himself who too couldn't deal with all of those what-ifs. I do think that Walter is genuinely trying to offer his flavor of guidance for Hank. Again, he has conquered his own fears, and sure that came because of a diagnosis, but he had to work through all of that himself. That being said, one of his coping mechanisms was to become like a literal drunk kingpin who lies and kills people, so yeah. And because of that, I think there is also a degree of fueling his own sense of superiority and control. He knows that he has already conquered this fear, and so seeing Hank trying to deal with it is the first time in his life where he feels more confident than the extremely confident Hank. We then cut to Jesse and Walter doing a little bit of accounting, with them landing on $44,000 each, short of the $48,000 they should have made. Keep this number of 90-ish thousand in mind, because we are once again in for some Breaking Bad hilarity. But yes, Jesse says that Badger hasn't kicked in his share yet, which is when he learns that Citizen Z did indeed break the Constitution and Badger is indeed in jail. This whole Boogeyman Jesse plot doesn't really last long, but I also like how, with something like this, it kind of ends up backfiring. Combo was too scared to initially tell Jesse that Badger got yoinked, which is not good for business. Historically, whenever you have an even mildly authoritarian leader, the whole ruling with an iron fist strategy, more often than not, gets you surrounded by extremely counterproductive yes men, which in turn stalls all progress because reporting accurate data is suddenly dangerous. We see various different forms of this with the Salamanca cartel in Better Call Saul, and that's also kind of the entire late-stage story of Walter. After ignoring pretty much all pushback from Mike and Jesse, he surrounds himself with entirely yes men, which just accelerates his downward spiral, but okay, that is a tangent of a tangent, you get my point. There should be respect and a degree of fear from your boss, but when people are scared of giving you information, that is you being a very, very bad boss. Cutting on over to Hank, he has another panic attack as he's going up the elevator, only to, once again, instantly flip back on his "Honey, I'm home! No, too slow!" Only this time, that facade is already on very shaky ground, with us then cutting to their office where Gomez is just intensely watching Hank.
You okay? Hanging in?
He obviously suspects that all is definitely not okay, but because they're not exactly the talkative type, Gomez just says that they have another lead on the blue meth and they set off. Very accurate male bonding experience. One dude is literally traumatized for life, while the other awkwardly asks if they just want to go work on his favorite case. Bravo, Vince, 100% lore accurate.
I like people who don't, abuse the Constitution.
You doing talking to my client without me present? You sneaky Pete. Hey, go grab a juice box, have a nap, go on.
How I wish I could watch Saul's introduction for the first time. From the first moment he appears on screen, he's just straight from the hip zingers. First about Citizen Z, then about Badger, and then pretty much about anything else under the sun.
Why don't you do it at home like the rest of us with a big flat screen TV, 50 channels of pay-per-view?
That ain't me, man.
Sorry, that was a little transpositional error.
No, seriously, how do you even come up with this stuff? And even beyond all the goofs, the sheer amount of characterization that is achieved in 30 seconds is crazy. From the very first second, he controls the room, and you instantly know everything you need to know about him. I think it's no wonder that of all the characters in the series, Saul, or I guess Jimmy, is the one who gets his own show, because his character and how Bob, I don't know how to say his last name, played him was just wow. It's not even 0 to 100, it's just straight 100 from the rip. But yes, he then starts going down the list of payments and whatnot, mentioning that the order should be made out to Ice Station Zebra Associates. Obviously, this is a shell company for tax evasion. But it pops up a few more times throughout the series as well. When Hank is in the hospital and we get to the whole Walter money laundering thing, Saul would again use the same shell company. And it also pops up in Better Call Saul when they're pulling their usual shenanigans. The name of Ice Station Zebra is also a reference to the 1963 novel of the same name, while the movie adaptation of said novel is one of Kim's favorite movies. Whether she was involved in the creation of that shell company, or Saul just named it that for personal reasons, is unclear, but it is a recurring thing with them. The novel itself is a story about an American nuclear submarine sent to, supposedly, rescue a British scientific station. But that is actually a cover story, with the real mission being the retrieval of secret film canisters containing secrets and like weird satellite stuff. I don't think that requires much elaboration in how that connects to Saul. Everything about everything with him is always a secret cover for something illegal.
Visa or MasterCard, but definitely not American Express.
Okay, but what beef does Saul have with American Express? I think the beef is just higher fees and more anti-money laundering practices. So I think it's just Saul being Saul.
Okay, look, it's on your head. You're not supposed to double up on vitamin A. It's bad for the liver.
This is actually lore accurate. Vitamin A is fat soluble, and unlike water soluble vitamins, which you just pee out the excess, the body actually stores them. For vitamin A, the liver is the main storage, so if Saul is talking about higher doses, it could actually be bad for him. Realistically, of course, even if he doubled up, he's probably taking some off-the-shelf vitamin which shouldn't have super high doses, and unless he's doing that every single day for months, it really doesn't matter. Typical tablets, here at least, are 800 micrograms, which is supposed to be 100% of your daily intake, but the tolerable upper intake for an adult is 3,000 micrograms, so even 2 tablets is well under the limits.
Korotos is not a medical professional. 14 advice on rash diet or read please consult a doctor or medical professional. Korotos is however, rated watch videos of few raising it. If you are experiencing medical emergency, there is no else issue. Call an ambulance or something. I don't know. Probably take insurance. Korotos only accepts Patreon or YouTube channel memberships, which will work with more videos. That's it. I know pretty lame, but it is what it is. P.S. Survivor Korotos also streams on Twitch.tv, where he also provides valuable advice on life circumstances. Side effects of any streams include, but are not limited to, sudden drowsiness, spontaneous combustion, inability to everything normally ever again. Desire to punch is very hard. Survivor is not responsible for any broken items and other destructive side effects.
The much more important part here is of course Saul crossing paths with Hank, marking our very first direct clash between Walter's operations and Hank. And speaking of, we jump on over to the other side of this conversation, with Jesse and Walter pulling up to Saul's office.
You don't want a criminal lawyer, right? You want a criminal lawyer.
First off, the blow-up Statue of Liberty will forever be iconic. Secondly, there's also a bunch of subtle lore here dropped about Emilio, with Jesse saying that Saul was constantly pulling strings. While Better Call Saul never really dives that much into what happened with Emilio in particular, we do see him in their office in Season 6. And, ironically enough, Jesse actually advised against choosing Saul's office based on a commercial, but here we are.
You know, he sees this dude's commercials on TV and this is where he wants to go. Emilio, you know, a funny TV commercial is not a sound basis for life, you know.
For once though, Walter and Jesse don't mold out too much, and Walter ends up being the one to go meet Saul.
Should I call the FBI and tell them I found DB Cooper? Joking.
Okay, this is primetime 2010 YouTube video lore material. In case you don't know who DB Cooper is, it's like one of the most interesting heist mysteries out there. Long story short, in 1971, a dude hijacked a plane and demanded a ransom of about $1.6 million in today's money. Nothing really too surprising, but where it gets weird is that he also demanded 4 parachutes, 2 front parachutes and 2 back ones. There has been speculation that this was a tactic to threaten a hostage scenario, as in, I need another pair because I'm taking another person with me. That would obviously discourage anyone giving him dummy or otherwise sabotage gear, but obviously, this is a mystery, so there is nothing definitive. After releasing the passengers and refueling, they again took off, and a short while later, Cooper parachuted over a remote area of Washington, never to be seen again. Small parts of the money were actually found alongside the riverbanks of the Columbia River, and there is also speculation that he just never survived the jump. But again, this is a mystery. Investigations have never found a trace of the money or DB Cooper. And so, even in the big 2025, it is the one and only unsolved case of air piracy in history. Even as recently as November of 2024, there have been new bits of evidence and potential breakthroughs in the case, with the FBI making their first move since deeming the case closed in 2016. But as of October 2025, it is still a complete mystery. But okay, nerding out over cool mysteries aside, one of the most famous pictures of DB Cooper is the sketch with black shades. So it's no wonder that Saul saw the comically disguised Walter and got a good chuckle out of it. Also, maybe I'm exposing myself as a non-dripped out individual, but I have never seen glasses where the, glass is bigger than the frames. That is very, very weird.
My real name's McGill.
We never get Saul's full real name in Breaking Bad, but this is of course a teeny tiny hint at the completely different persona that lay beneath Saul Goodman. But things get very interesting when Saul mentions that the DEA is already involved, something that obviously rattles Walter because well, they're locking in on his product, whatever the source.
They're after some mystery man, some heavy hitter who goes by the name Heisenberg.
For Saul, this is obviously the golden ticket for easy money. He gets the 4,000, Badger snitches and gets out, and they both walk away happy, job's done. Badger might get blowback for snitching, but that's number 1, not Saul's problem, and 2, still beats going to prison.
But yay big.
For Walter, though, it's obviously the absolute worst case scenario, and so he drops the charade and blatantly starts pushing for another path. He first tries citing the Jesse ADM incident as an argument against snitching.
People love to take credit for the fun ones. His wife killed him, all right? It was open and shut.
First off, that just shows that the entire Jesse story has already been largely debunked, and it's only a matter of time before everyone knows that it is made up, which in turn will hurt their street rep. As it turns out, that's not even a problem because Walter will fix that up real fast even by the end of season 2, so that's alright. But numero 2, I think it also very neatly sets up Saul as this almost bigger-than-life character who somehow, someway, seems to be connected to just about everything, legal and otherwise. Practically speaking, it's just a cheeky way for the writers to start connecting Walt to the big leagues. But I just love how it frames even the underground dealings as just one big web where the lawyers play just as big of a role as distributors or dealers. Pretty much everyone, DEA included, knows that Saul is very, very shady, but he's a lawyer, and so there's nothing anyone can really do about it. He's just kinda out there, plain as day, working with other very shady individuals. But yes, Walter is very not happy with the snitching plan and offers Saul a straight-up bribe.
$10,000. No talking to the DEA.
What, dude wouldn't take a bribe?
Morally outraged, he said. Threatened to call the police.
This teeny tiny scene here is why I adore Saul's character. He clearly knows that the people he deals with are often very shady and very dangerous, and that the money they bring is often blood money. But he also tolerates a lot of that risk, and so he keeps happily working with them. Later in the same episode, he'd even explicitly say,
Conscience gets expensive, doesn't it?
Obviously implying that money is money and that he personally isn't really held back by a lot of these things. But at the same time, Saul is a survivor, and he knows that Walter is big trouble. Money is money, but sometimes it's just not worth the trouble. And obviously, we know that his spidey senses were right on the money with that one. Barely a few years into dealing with the famous Heisenberg, his entire world would come crashing down. Put a pin in that, we'll circle back to this, because remember the whole joke about Walter and Flynn taking out the bullies into the desert and burying them in the sand? Yeah, so, about that.
No! It wasn't me, it was Ignacio, he's the one!
Okay, this scene is a really special one, because it is one of very few that has a direct follow-up in the equally creatively named episode, Breaking Bad. I'm telling you these two series actually share a universe. I can't prove it, but I'm certain of it. Starting out with the Breaking Bad scenes, and I don't mean the episode, I mean the series, Saul immediately cries out that whatever's going on was apparently because of Ignacio, that of course being Nacho Varga in Better Call Saul. What he's actually referring to here is Nacho's betrayal of Lalo, which is why he also repeatedly blurts out that he is a friend of the cartel in Spanish. And he is obviously rattled by Lalo because, well, I mean...
What'd you do, Saul?
With Saul being Saul, he immediately regains control, saying it's not safe to take bribes from strangers, but that they can make the deal work. But as their negotiation continues, he drops a very simple question.
Why don't you just kill Badger? Mosquitoes buzzing around you, go grab a fly swatter. You don't go gunning for the mosquito's attorney.
I mean, yeah, he has worked with the cartel. He knows how these things are solved. Offing Badger is just the simplest option. But Jesse obviously doesn't want to off a friend, so that is no dice. And an even bigger problem here is Saul of course immediately profiling Walter's cough. These are also the same very cursed ski masks that Jesse and Walter used during their great methylamine heist. They go through the whole attorney-client privilege escapade, which then leads us into the Better Call Saul scene. Yes, we are doing Overanalyzing Better Call Saul within a Overanalyzing Breaking Bad video. Enjoy. This is the first time Walter hears the ever-iconic name of
Crystal Schiff.
But it was also on Jesse's website in Season 1, so we as the viewers have already heard this. And also, I know this is a complete tangent, I guess very much in line with Overanalyzing Squared, but I can't help but notice how different the timings for Saul's lines are in Better Call Saul when compared to Breaking Bad.
First things first, you're gonna put $1 in my pocket, both of you. You want attorney-client privilege, don't you?
Fellas, that money you put in my pocket, that doesn't just extend to this job.
Obviously, a part of that is everyone being a good 10 years older, but I think it's also a reflection of how much darker Saul's story was by this point compared to Breaking Bad. Yes, Breaking Bad has a bunch of very messed up things and deals with serious subject matter like Hank's PTSD, but by the time we get to, this is getting very confusing, the episode Breaking Bad in Better Call Saul, that was pretty much the end for Saul's story. And so this isn't some fan servicey flashback. This is a terrifying look back at where the end started. And so when you pair up these scenes, even just completely in isolation, they're supposed to be the same exact tone, the same exact vibe and everything. But they're not. There is just this slight difference in how Better Call Saul handles the scene. I don't think I have the proper word to describe it, but it feels like the tempo of every line of every cut is slower and heavier in a way. Saul then pieces together the whole Blue Meth Heisenberg stuff, but in line with that mournful and regretful look back, him eyeing a potential business opportunity is played up a ton more. And there's also a callback, and I guess also mild foreshadowing to the RV starting issues they would always have, which is very funny goofy. But in their moments of brief silence, Jesse gets curious and asks who Lalo was. He has never heard of the name on the streets, only for Saul to just dismissively say,
Who?
Lalo.
It's nobody. Hey, are we gonna try that again?
Again, obviously he is beyond rattled by him, so yes, anything to do with that is better left unsaid. Returning to Breaking Bad though, but like the show, not the episode, in the show Better Call Saul, Badger drops some lore on the alleged Heisenberg, which takes us back to Saul's office where he introduces them to their fall guy.
Better known as Jimmy In and Out.
This was such a wacky idea that I wanted to see if it's actually drawing on someone real, but as far as I know, no, this is completely made up. They're obviously organized crime gangs who will pay people to take the fall and such, but the idea of that being a recurring job is completely made up. At least that we know of. Oh, and remember that 90-ish thousand I told you to keep in mind?
What's gonna cost you is $80,000 and 1 pound of your finest meth.
I mean, we've talked about this already. Season 1 and 2 literally feels like Walter making money, only to immediately burn through all of it trying to cover up a crime. It's hilarious. And the rest of this sequence is also just comedy gold. Everything from Badger just harassing that random dude wanting to read a newspaper, to Walt's genius distraction plan that is so over the top that I don't even know is just cinema. And the way they drag out that extremely staggered stammering from Walter is just the cherry on top.
We're working, okay? So you got to get out of here.
Oh, you mean like DEA working?
Walter, move your ass.
Should I back up or go forward? All right, forward is better.
We're out of lane, just forward.
Oh, I'm sorry, all right? I'm sorry.
But with Jimmy In and Out being arrested, we focus on Hank, whose spidey senses are naturally blaring as loud as they ever could. The final scenes of the episode take us back to Breaking Bad, but like in Better Call Saul. Mike pops in for one of his info dump sessions with Saul, most of which is whatever, but the most important one is of course on our very own Heisenberger.
Walter Hartwell White, chemistry teacher over at J.P. Wynn. He has lung cancer. Now listen, even if this guy was going to live, I wouldn't go near him. He's a complete amateur.
170 pounds of clay ready to be molded.
Well, if the cancer doesn't get him, it'll be the cops or a bullet to the head.
They get into a whole thing about what Gus might have said, yada yada, but point is, Mike very blatantly warned against working with Walter right from day one. But Saul got greedy, saying they've got a top-of-the-line product. And again, despite Mike's repeated warnings, he just couldn't let it go. Which, just like the RV flashback, is there to emphasize how it all crashed and burned. But okay, we're not there yet, so let's return to Better Call Saul in Breaking Bad. Walter is correcting papers and once again doing his classic rage baiting. Something about a teacher just writing not even close and then underscoring that is very funny to me. But a moment later, Saul shows up.
My PI charged me for 3 hours, so I seriously doubt it took him more than one.
The funny part here is that this line might have been a throwaway line, as, again, Mike did not exist. Saul wasn't available for filming when they had to shoot the whole Jesse Jane stuff, and so they created the character of Mike only then. Obviously, I've got no idea what the timeline for all of these changes actually were when they were shooting, and maybe everything was already prepped that this PI was always supposed to be Mike, but I still find it kind of amusing when I watch this and I'm kind of like, yeah, I wonder whether Mike even exists at this point. But against his own, or Mike's better judgments, Saul pushes the idea of working together, and we of course all know how that ends. And so the episode leaves off on a very whimsical, personalized commercial for the old Walt Burger.
Make more money and keep the money that you make. Better call Saul!
And with that is episode 8. I absolutely adore this episode. Saul is one of my favorite characters in the entire universe, and this is where I would say I wish we got to see more of him, but the thing is, we did. So this is one of those episodes that, in hindsight, again, because of how much it is recontextualized with Better Call Saul, the show, not the episode, it just keeps getting better. So, no notes. 10 out of 10, cinema. And you know what else is cinema? This segue to our patrons and YouTube members, who I want to give a massive thank you to, and welcome to the team, Azaria, I think, Tetris99 is God, and Samuel Carey. Without you, there'd be a whole lot less of my rambling, so seriously, thank you. Other than that, I want to say thank you very much for watching, I hope you have a great day, and hopefully, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.